So the one thing that I can testify about, is to obey when you hear God's voice, and that's something that I can write 2 books about that. The one book is when I was obedient, and I listened, and God did amazing things. The other book should be about when God spoke and I didn't, and I wasn't obedient, because those two is those learning curves. But I think the story, one of the great stories for me that meant a lot in my personal life was when I was involved in the DRC in the Congo, on more classic missions, community development, but classic missions. So the Lord spoke to me about flying into the DRC and going to make a declaration, a declaration of declaring light in the darkness. And I knew one pastor in the DRC, in Kinshasa, that had a church there, and I phoned him, not a big church, and I said, listen, the Lord have spoken to me just to fly into Lusaka on this specific date and to come and make a declaration. Can I use your church? And he's a very good friend, Pastor Alphonse Letumba, an amazing man. And he said, of course, brother, just come in. And I flew in to Kinshasa, spent a few days with him. The Sunday service, I took the Sunday service, not a very big church, maybe about 100 people in the church, and very vibrant. And at the end of the service, I said to them, are you guys okay? I need to make a declaration. So I was speaking in French, doing the service in French, and then I made the declaration and I said, Father, I come, you told me to come, I just want to speak light into darkness. And nothing really happened. It was good, and I felt the Lord is there, and it was great. But then I felt an urgency in my heart to also do the declaration in my mother language, that is Afrikaans. And I then did the declaration again, and I was speaking in Afrikaans, and I said, today I come here and I come and speak light into darkness. In Afrikaans we would say, ek kom spreek lig in die donkerte in. And as I was saying it, a most incredible thing happened. And I saw in another dimension, I saw like a black darkness, and not a very, very beautiful thing looking at me, but it was like it was hanging over the country. It was and I looked straight into it, and I actually got a fright, and I started to shake, and suddenly it was gone, and I couldn't understand it. It came as a total surprise, and I didn't know how to handle it or to explain it. So we closed the service, and we went home, and I didn't speak to anybody about it. I was a little bit just in a sort of, what did I see? So the next day I had to fly back to South Africa, and got in the plane, and in Kinshasa, and there was a lady sitting next to me, a black lady, that I thought was Congolese. So I started she had a baby on her lap, and I said to her, yeah, that's a nice baby, but I was speaking French to her, and she answered me in English, and she said, sorry sir, I don't speak French. And I laughed, and I said, what are you doing in Kinshasa? Because at that point in time, Kinshasa was still in the early 2000s, and it was not a very safe place to go to. And she said, no sir, I came to Lusaka for the spiritual warfare weekend. And I say, what do you mean a spiritual warfare weekend? She says, yes, we intercessors from over Africa came here this weekend to Lusaka. And I said to her, that's very interesting, because on Saturday I was driving through the city of Kinshasa, and I saw that we passed the soccer stadium, a very big stadium, and there was many cars. And I asked the pastor that I was with, I said, yeah, is there a soccer game? Because it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. And he said, no, he thinks, there's a big church gathering and on the main stadium. And we left it there. So I said to her, and that's interesting, so were you on the stadium? And she said, yes, it was the weekend on the stadium. And she said, but an interesting thing, sir. She said, the people sitting right in front of us here were the main speakers. They are from Zimbabwe. Maybe you should just also speak to them. And so the flight got off, and as the plane stabilized, there was a seat open next to them, and it was a husband and a wife from Zimbabwe. I can't remember their names. And what was interesting is when God told me to go to do the declaration, I also had two scriptures, Isaiah 60 of Arise and Shine, and Isaiah 61. And so I also made that declarations and read those scriptures in the church. And so I got up in the plane, sit down next to them, and then I asked them, and I said, listen, I've heard you've been at this weekend. And they were beautiful people, and they said, yes. I said, so how many were you? They said, well, no, we were many. I mean, they came over from all over Africa. And I said, to do what? And I said, no, God spoke to us to come and make a declaration. And I said, what declaration? And he said, to come and speak light into the darkness. And I said, yes, because that was now what God spoke to me. And he said, out of Isaiah 60 and 61. And it was the same scriptures and the same message. And we started to work out at what time was that declaration. And it was in the Sunday morning, it was the same time that I was having the church service. So what was interesting was that this manifestation of this demonic creature was revealing itself in terms of, in the same time that I was declaring, a couple of thousand people was doing the same thing on the stadium. Now, what was interesting for me is that, sometimes you think it's for you, but in fact, as we declared and as we light, it manifested. And Africa's got a lot of light, and there will be more and more light. There's projects like what we are doing currently in Zambia that will bring much more light into the continent. But there's more projects like this that will start. So it was for me to understand that the spiritual realm is actually the place where you start when you do projects. You don't start writing down nice spreadsheets and Excel spreadsheets. You start by addressing what God speaks to you in the spiritual realm. And then the rest will surely be there. But that's the first place you address. And that is when you will make a success of what you'll be doing.